Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you're joining me from. Welcome to Talk About It Tuesdays, a safe space where we talk about everything grief and perinatal related and whatever pops up in between. Many of you may or may not know that October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and I had great plans to come on here every Tuesday to share my story, to share why I chose to specialize in grief and loss, and why I focus on perinatal mental health issues. When last Tuesday came, I just couldn't do it. I just could not do it. I came in my office and I sat around the computer for quite a while, but everything was swimming around in my head, but I just could not click the record button. I had so much to say, and I just sat there in a reflective space. I have different periods throughout the year where I just pause and reflect, and October is definitely one of those months. I think I was looking over the statistics, and that kind of put me in a pensive mood. I started to think about my personal experiences. I started to think about people who I know who've experienced stillbirths recently. It's just so much going on, and I just had to sit there in that moment and be still. So, talk about it Tuesdays did not happen last week, and one of my girlfriends, shout out to Laurie, reached out and said, "Hey, when I to talk about it Tuesday, what?" And Tracy also asked me as well. I have some very good friends who get me through seasons like these, and those are just two of many. I could go on and call the names of those ladies and friends who really stand by me through times like these. But it just reminds me that even with healing, grief still sits quietly beside you. It's not going anywhere. So when people tell people to get over it, listen, that just does not happen. There are different points where you just are overcome and overwhelmed with grief. There are times when I sit and think about my twins in particular, who I lost in 2019, and I still have their pictures and everything in a box that they put their stuff in. And moments like those just put me in a space where I just don't want to do anything. I was even joking this morning and said, hats off to those people who record content for a living. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because there are times when I just sit with my emotions and nothing much gets done. I'm still human, and not recording talk about it Tuesdays for that particular reason or those particular reasons really remind me that, hey, you're still human. You talk about your story, but you still feel like everybody else. And I still plan to share my story soon, don't worry. But for today, I just wanted to pause and share some important statistics that remind us why this month matters. And October 15, at either 7 or 8 p.m., I don't quite remember right now, they call it a wave of light, where we're encouraged to light a candle and just pause for a moment to remember those babies and infants who just did not make it or who made it and unfortunately didn't go on too much further after life. So when it comes down to numbers and remembering things along those lines, that's not my ministry. So I'm just gonna read the global facts and statistics and briefly look at what obtains in the US. According to this, and it's from UNICEF, WHO, and Oxford University Press, approximately 2 million stillbirths occur each year worldwide. That's about one every 16 seconds. So I've been recording for 3 minutes and 59 seconds. Do the math. That's a lot of stillbirths happening. Even as we speak, the global stillbirth rate is about 14.3 per 1,000 total births. Over 40% of stillbirths happen during labor, which pretty much means that many of these could be prevented with better care and resources. Now, that's a topic and a whole other episode all to itself, but let me carry on. 12 to 15% of known pregnancies end in miscarriage. It means millions of people and families lose their hopes and dreams every single year. Let's see what's happening in the US. One in four women will experience a pregnancy or infant loss in their lifetime, including miscarriage, stillbirth, or infant death. That is just so horrible. Miscarriage occurs in about 10 to 15% of clinically confirmed cases. Stillbirth affects one in every 160 pregnancies, and the US fetal mortality rate, which is pretty much 20 plus weeks gestation, was recorded at 5.48 deaths per 1,000 births in 2020. And the infant mortality rate, which pretty much means deaths before the age of one, was 5.6 deaths per 1,000 live births in 2020 22. I think this was part of the reason why I just couldn't do anything last week too, because I was also looking over these statistics and it was just too much. It was a lot. It was a lot, and I can sit here and hee hee ha ha right now, but that's not what I was doing last year, last week. I'm sorry. I even did a little digging as to what obtains in Jamaica and didn't find too much. Um, some of the global statistics obviously still apply, but this says as of 2024, Jamaican infant mortality rate is about 10.48 deaths per 1,000 live births. Right? It's been gradually declining in recent years. Knock wood. According to Ministry of Health, in 2017, stillbirth rate in government hospital was 15.9 per 1,000 births. And I could go on and on and on. Even just reading the statistics is putting me back in that space. And these are just numbers. And fortunately for a lot of people, they won't be a part of this statistics right here, but I was. I've had multiple miscarriages and one questionable stillbirth, according to. I'll get into that another time, but I am unfortunately a part of these statistics, or these statistics, right? And it's really, really, it puts me in a somber mood sometimes. These numbers represent real people: mothers, fathers, grandmothers, friends, family. Navigating this period is just unimaginable. And sometimes I sit and wonder why. Like, I know they say I mustn't question God, but the relationship I have with God, that's between me and Him, I do ask questions like, why would you allow this to happen? I did everything right according to the book and still had loss after loss after loss. But that's for a whole different episode. All right. But behind every statistics is a story, a heartbeat, a love that endures beyond loss. Families are just left in a state of shock, disbelief, mourning. And this is a part of why this work is so important to me. And I want to create safe spaces for women like me. Even though, for the most part, you do have people who intentionally choose to do away with their pregnancies, and that's not for me to judge. But aside from those situations, it's not usually our fault, but for whatever reason, we harbor a lot of guilt and shame. And luckily, it's changing, but there's still some amount of stigma attached behind or attached to miscarriages and any other form of pregnancy loss. And I'm here to debunk some of these myths and have open conversations so that people can be better informed. I think sometimes a lot of what people say comes from a place of ignorance, right? So my passion for all of this pretty much comes from a place of lived experiences. And when I say lived experiences, I personally have experienced multiple losses, which I've shared, but I've also had women who are close and dear to my heart who've lost babies. And by babies, I mean stillbirths. And I have known people who have had miscarriages too. I also do hair for a living, and we know that when you're doing somebody's hair, a lot of stories come out, a lot of sharing takes place. Barbers, bartenders, hairdressers. We hear a lot. We hear a lot. And a part of why I do what I do, again, is to just have dialogue, to create awareness, to get rid of some of the stigma that's attached with some of these things that people go through, these events that people go through. But I just want to take this moment before I go off on a tangent to just remind the people who are sitting in grief, extra grief this month, is that you're not alone. You are absolutely not alone. Your stories matter, and your grief absolutely deserves gentle care and acknowledgement. So if you know somebody who have experienced pregnancy losses, whether it's miscarriages, stillbirths, neonatal death, don't go send anything that you're not supposed to say. And I think I did a video sharing or encouraging you to be more mindful in what you say. There's nothing that you can say to reverse what has already happened. But from my experiences, I appreciated text messages. I enjoy a good GIF, whatever you wanna call it. I do enjoy getting scriptures or words of encouragement or words of hope from my friends. So whoever you are supporting, you should know who they are and what they like. So you don't have to find the words because there are no words to comfort people sometimes. But think about the person and think about what they would like and just be there. Just be there. I also shared a video about practical ways that you can support people who are grieving. Feel free to go back and watch that video as well. But again, for those of you who are experiencing deep grief this month, you're not alone. Your story matters. And that's a part of why I'm here. And I don't plan to go missing again for this month, but if I do, just keep me in your thoughts, keep me in your prayers, and I'm just grateful for the support I have. I have people in my life who really care and who check in when they see me operating outside of what is my norm. So thank you again for the people who are in my life, family, friends, husband, everybody. And even my kids, they don't have a clue as to what I'm going through sometimes, but their presence and them being who they are just light up my life. Anywho, happy Tuesday, and I will see you next week. In the meantime, please feel free to share this video, like it, subscribe. I'm getting into the whole hang of this social media story. Share with somebody who may benefit from it, and stay tuned to what's to come for the remainder of this month and beyond. All right, take care.